The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
Today, we are going to start our news, top 10 ASEAN news, together with my colleague and friend here, Kim. How are you?
Morning.
Morning. It's a very early morning, and we are going to kickstart with the Sun Daily. Is the news from Malaysia. So Malaysia SME are more socially intelligent than ASEAN counterparts. So the small and medium enterprises in Malaysia perceive their organization to be more likely as a socially intelligent organization, or SIO, when compared with majority of ASEAN countries, according to the Kelly Outsourcing and Consulting Group, which is short for Kelly OCG. Is based on their Executive Outlook Survey 2014. So it seems like it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, like for the extra information of our listener, social intelligence is the capacity to effectively negotiate complex social relationships and also environments. So I guess it's actually quite a surprise to all of us that we are actually quite social intelligent.
And considering that, people always complain that Malaysians graduates are not on par in terms of their talent ability. So it is good that it's stated here that this could be a direct result of more Gen Y hires that make up in the SME workforce. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it also stated that Malaysia SME, they like themselves is more social intelligence quotients driven compared to larger multinational companies, which is 33%, conglomerates 18%, and government agencies 4%. It kind of shows that government agencies doesn't really have that much of socially intelligence driven. I think that we can kind of conclude something through this news where, like, usually larger corporations, they don't really promote social intelligence or allow them to be developed as the one, like, to be developed, because usually it is one-way communication in those large corporations. That is why it is like social intelligence is not really needed.
That's true. I mean, social intelligence is important not just in businesses, but also in real life. And working in small and medium enterprises encourage such behavior, as workers has more space to a larger extent express themselves in terms of their innovation and entrepreneurial skills, compared to larger bureaucratic corporates, which often are restricted with red tapes and all these different processes that they need to follow.
Yeah. So also the younger generations are impacting the SME in a positive way by, like, bringing their young and energetic personalities into the workplace. So it become a more conducive place to work in.
So for the younger generation, we advise for you to start your career with the SME rather than larger corporates.
Yeah,
I guess.
it actually promotes how you will be able to think critically instead of just following directions.
So the next one is about Mahathir. He admits that Malaysia is a copycat in positive way. So that's a funny headline.
Yeah, quite hilarious.
So our former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad had admitted that his country was a copycat, copying from Indonesia and also other countries such as Japan and South Korea in a positive way to develop itself. Of course, when we say Japan and South Korea, it probably it was his prior policy, look is policy.
Yeah. So it's copy is policy.
So in this case, he said that Malaysia was a copycat. We like to copy from other countries since we often don't have ideas. Do you think that's an insult to Malaysians?
Kind of. Like, how can you say that we don't have ideas?
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, he's just blubbing his way against. Copying other countries has never. Copying other countries when it comes to Malaysia, of course, we are always being accused of copying other cultures, especially in particularly our neighboring countries. And in this case, Indonesia and Malaysia has several problems related to territorial and culture claims. So in that sense, I don't know, copying is not really a positive thing. Do you think it's a positive thing?
I think he shouldn't be saying that we are copying, but he should be like presenting it in a way that's saying that we are like making them as our reference, you know, like not copy lah. Like as a reference means that we look at them and then we see what they have done right and what they have done wrong, and then so we could refer to that and then try not to imply like the wrong thing that they have done in our country policy, and then if they have done something good, then we could just make it as a reference.
Yeah, Malaysia is a multicultural society, and we are not mono-racial or mono culture. So in that sense, I can consider that we are a melting pot of all cultures, not just you would say Malaysian cultures, but cultures around the world. So I don't see this as copy. I just see us as being a melting pot for all the different cultures, and even in terms of people mingling with each other.
Yeah.
So the next one is in Thailand. So Bangkok Post reported that killing of environmental activists rises globally. So Thailand is facing a problem when it comes to the killing of their environmental activists. This is reported by the London-based Global Witness. So a group that seeks to shed lights on the links between environmental exploitation and human rights abuses. They say that murders of those protecting land rights and the environment has soared dramatically. So what do you see in this?
Yeah, it is quite horrible because like there's this example of Prajop Now Opas. He battled to save his Chachoengsao province community from the illegal dumping of toxic waste by filling petitions and leading villagers to block the trucks carrying the stuff, until there is a gunman in broad daylight fired 4 shots into him. Actually, this news is based on the latest where this culprit, the 3 alleged killers, they were charges a year later, which is right now, and then including a senior government officers, he is also on trial for murder. Like so, government is kind of like involved in this, like, and then so the dumping has been halt, and then the villagers are enacting a statue to their slain hero. But however, they said that the prosecution of this Prajop's murder, it is actually a rare exceptions, because there's a survey released Tuesday back then. So the first comprehensive one of its kind says that only 10 killers of 908 environmental activists slain around the world.
That's even less than 1%, isn't it?
Yes. So actually, it is quite scary. And then they also said that the victims have ranged from 70-year-old farmer Jesus Sebastian Ortiz, one of the several people in the Mexican town of Charan, killed in 2012 while opposing illegal logging, and to the machine gunning by Philippines Armed Forces of indigenous anti-mining activist Juvie Kaplan and her 2 sons the same year. So it doesn't just happen in Bangkok, but it happens in all around the world. So it is quite scary that those people which is fighting the rights for the environment, fighting the future, like, because I think protecting environment is like protecting humans beings' future.
That's true. I mean, the bigger question here is not about just the murders, but also the environmental cost for such senseless killing.
Yeah.
And these people actually risk their life to save our environment. And I think not just the government, but society have to do more about this.
They're doing a good deeds, but they are facing all sort of risks. And then I think they are like sort of playing the same role like a journalist. But however, these two role is a very important role, but they are facing risks from the people that's just trying to get some benefits from something.
So in Brunei, we move forward. In Brunei Times, it was reported that the Bruneians want to nurture youth interest in ICT to boost e-governance. So in one of the speech by one of the government officers there is they officiated an e-services mini roadshow held at the Central Lecture Theatre of University Brunei Darussalam. The person's name is Dr. Haja Shami Haji Muhammad Arif Limp, touched on how today's youth have grown up in this era of rapid technological advancement. So attention, therefore, should focus on how best to develop, utilize, and leverage our younger generation to capitalize on the ICT and for the national advancement. So only now the government is catching up with the younger generation, I think.
Yeah. And then I think that they are aiming the younger generation is because that it is quite hard to change the mentality of the older generation. Therefore, they are aiming the youth so that they could nurture their interest in ICT. And then in order to boost the e-governance, as I really do think that everything could be done more faster, more efficient if you could electronize everything.
Yeah.
You doesn't really need like people, especially when like in Malaysia, it's so slow. It's like when it comes to people, I mean, people could be fast, but apparently in Malaysia it's not that way. So I really do think that if in Malaysia we could practice that more frequently, it will be helping a lot of things. You doesn't have to queue for so long. You doesn't have to go to the immigration office like say 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. just to wait, just so to save time,
Yeah, and talking about Brunei, right? So on the roadshow, they have several e-services such as e-Darussalam, JKR, KU, Land Transport System, BRUHIMS, Government Employment Management System, and OneBase. They have all these fancy names for all the different e-services. But in my mind, it's like, it's not so much on the fancy names. It's like, does it really help boosting, the government's efficiency in terms of serving the people?
Yeah.
That is left to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, and then there's economic students who's been interviewed. She said that she has used e-Darussalam, and then she found that it is quite informative. But she said that some government websites were not updated. So she said she's an infrequent user of e-services, as she believed that they were not relevant to the students. And therefore, she said there is a need to educate youth on the services to prepare for the future. Because like government is working on like providing the electronized services and such. But if you don't let the public know about it, then there's no use of like providing all these kind of services if they don't know how to use it.
That's true. But then the government is also slow at keeping out with the pace of today's digital society.
Yeah. I guess they need to work on it.
So, in the Straits Times, this time we focus on, this is in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
So more than 1 in 3 new maids last year received weekly rest day. So the story is about a third of more than 2,000 maids who started working in Singapore last year received a weekly rest day. It is informed by the Manpower Ministry. I personally think it is good, but it's not good enough.
Yeah,
we should have higher standards than that.
Yeah, but Singaporeans should have higher. I'm not too sure about Malaysia, but I guess they said that it is apostrophe encouraging compared to the situation where in 2010 there's only 13% of some 900 maids surveyed did so. So I guess it's quite an improvement, but then I guess there are more space to be improved.
I see. And the ministry also found that 61% of the maids interviewed received at least 1 rest day per month last year, up from 53% of the 2010 survey.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is an encouraging statistic, but come on. Singapore is a high-income nation. Yeah. They should have higher standards and expectations. And I think if you compare to other countries, we don't have to go that far. compared to Taiwan and Hong Kong, they provide better employment contract for migrant workers there. So Singapore, I think, like the rest of ASEAN countries, are still lagging behind in terms of workers' rights and even human rights there in general.
Yeah, however, they are working on it, like, because according to Mr. Hawazi, he added that by January 1st next year, so all maids will be on new employment contracts. They will have to abide by the rest day requirement of 1 rest day per week or compensation in lieu. So I guess it is quite positive that they are actually working on something. And then I kind of like the things where it says that if you doesn't have the rest day per week, then you will have a compensation. So I guess if some maid they doesn't really want to rest, they could at least get some extra money for their life, you know.
Yeah, that's true. So the next newspaper, I'm very bad at pronouncing this newspaper's name is Tan Nien News. So it is actually from Vietnam, a newspaper. They reported that Vietnam needs to pay more to incentivize biomass power. So in sum, the power from biomass is both economically and environmentally beneficial, but Vietnam is using little of its potential in this area since most investors are waiting for pricing support from the government. So I guess the Achilles heel here is the government.
Yeah.
So to me, the Vietnam government, I think they need to step up even more. I mean, they have done a lot of economic reforms there, but I guess when it comes to renewable energy, they are still, quite a newbie there in a sense.
Yeah, and then in this news, like the subject is back asses, I guess it's called. It is a waste from sugarcane after making sugar. So it has been used to generate 100 million watts a year, while it could make 10 times that since sugar mills produce 4.5 million tons of bagasse a year. So it is enough to produce 1.2 or 1.4 million watts, according to Toi Truy newspaper report. But out of 41 plants in Vietnam, only 6 are using bagasse to generate electricity.
I see. That's a very interesting name, bagasse. So it's BAGASSE.
Yeah. So it actually the director of sugar department at Ho Chi Minh City, so Mr. Pamla, I would say. So he said a power plant using bagasse costs around 1 million. I think the reason why they doesn't have that much of power plant for the bagasse is because the cost is too much. They said that the cost for the bagasse is twice the cost of a plant that uses oil or coal. And then the power price is too low. So given such cost and pricing, there's not much people there to invest, except for sugar mills who can afford to build their own plant to make use of the waste. I guess Vietnam really have to work on this because oils and coal, it will run out one day.
Yeah, that's true. And it's very polluting towards the environment.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you are using the waste, it sort of recycle the wastage, and then it actually benefits the environment in the long term.
So I think a bit of investment or a lot of investment for the long term might be something good for Vietnam if they really see, the future of Vietnam as economically green rather than just follow whatever that is the status quo.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, tapping into the area of biomass energy industry, it is something that Vietnam government should look forward to.
Yeah, and then if they use the bagasse wastage and then they generate power from it, it can also actually help reducing the sugar prices. And then, for example, in Thailand, Thailand is the most efficient country in the region at biomass power generation.
Oh, so how did Thailand, try to be more efficient on this?
I guess because they also work on the bagasses power plant. So if you generate the power from bagasses, so you could actually reduce the sugar price. Because the money that you involve in it, and then the sugar doesn't just can be sold to people. You can also use it to generate power. So you are getting double income from working on the sugar.
Yeah, so maybe Vietnam can learn from its neighbor in
Yeah,
ASEAN, Thailand. So in Manila Bulletin now, of course, right now, if the Philippines are facing a huge territorial dispute, or no, not territorial, maritime dispute with China. But
Actually not just Philippines, it's the whole ASEAN.
this whole ASEAN in general. But in this context, China and ASEAN are willing to set a sea dispute meeting. That's a positive development.
Yeah, finally they are agreeing on a fixed date because they have been saying that they wanted to formulate a code of conduct since quite a long time ago. But then it still haven't been fixed.
So the meeting will be set on the city of Pattaya on April 21st to accelerate the process of formulating a code of conduct, like you said just now, for the disputed South China Sea. So I think this is a very positive development. I mean, if we can avoid any military dispute, to a very if it comes to that point, or hostility between ASEAN and China, if you can avoid that, that will be, a huge boost to ASEAN itself, since ASEAN needs, its good relationship between China and also other superpower in this global world.
Yeah, and then it is a very good thing that finally they have come up with the code of conduct and between all the countries, because before this they have been suggesting from China they have been suggesting to have just bilateral agreement
between Philippines and China, is it?
Yeah, between all the countries that is involved. Like Malaysia have the dispute problems, actually, like Vietnam also having it, and then China was hoping to just have a bilateral agreement between the countries that are having dispute with them lah. But then it is actually better to have a code of conduct and like as a ASEAN region to go and actually talk to China.
And the forthcoming meeting, just to add more, context to this, to be hosted by Thailand, comes amid critical development in the region. So there are a few issues here to be discussed, including China's the declaration of the Air Defense Identification Zone in the disputed East China Sea, the implementation of Hainan Island's new fishing regulations, and the rising tension in the South China Sea involving major claimants, including the Philippines' decision to file a case against China's claim in the West Philippine Sea before a United Nations-backed arbitral tribunal. So actually, to put a context to this as well, Philippines did file a tribunal. File arbitral tribunal towards United Nations.
Yeah. So it says that this COC, the Code of Conduct meeting, it was considered as a turning point, as finally China has expressed its willingness to work with ASEAN. So to comprehensive and also effective implementation of the DOC and steadily push forwards consultation on the COC. We have previously have a DOC before this.
I see.
So it is. I really have positive predictions towards this meeting, so that everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah, and this includes strengthening political trust to ensure productive discussion and commitment towards the principle laid down in the United Nations Charter, UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and Treaty of Amity and Cooperations, and other relevant international charters. So, in Manila as well, reported by Manila Bulletin, so they say no to nuclear power or nuclear weapon in Philippines. So the deal bans U.S.-shaped aircraft from carrying nuclear weapons. In that sense, Philippines are, trying to put their stance. They say United Nations ships and aircraft carrying nuclear weapons will not be allowed to enter the Philippines shore under a proposed military agreement between the two countries. So in this case, I think it's an encouraging news that Philippines is taking a really strong principle stance on this.
It is a very great move by the Philippines because US is always meddling with other countries' affairs. So setting up like military bases and etc.
Yeah, they have a military bases in Philippines.
Yeah. So it is good that finally Philippines is taking this preventive measure to kind of like saying that if you are carrying any nuclear weapons or whatever, you are not allowed to enter the Philippines.
So in Jakarta Globe now, in Indonesia, so the country's two most wanted terror suspects are also registered voters in this year's elections. It was revealed by the police in Indonesia. This is quite interesting.
Yeah, even though they do crime, but they are very responsible voters, you know. Despite that they are being hunted down by the government, but still they register to become voters because they want to make a change for the government.
So this is what we call exercising democracy.
Yeah.
Even by the terrorists themselves.
Yeah.
And the next one is by this Tianyan News.
Tianyan News.
I have a problem pronouncing this. So it says that Mekong River is at risk as Laos forges ahead with dam building spree. So as being stated there, Laos will build the dam. And this is I don't know. To me, is because their reason for this is they say that we need to provide more revenue for the people, and in that sense we want to lift the country out of poverty, and they genuinely believe that there's no alternative to this. Do you believe that?
No, not really. Actually, according to the news, they said that landlocked Laos looking to become the battery of Southeast Asia by exporting the vast majority of its power, mostly to Thailand, has promoted the Sayaburi Dam as a potential source of income and investment that will spur its small economy. I think that whatever they are trying to do with the Mekong River Dam, it is like they wanted to get benefits from it.
Yeah.
They also said, according to the director of the Australian Mekong Resource Centre at the University of Sydney, they told Tanian News that the Lao government sees hydropower as something of a silver bullet to lift the country out of poverty and genuinely believes there is no alternative. However, I don't agree with it because there are alternatives to make your country grow by not harming our environments.
Yeah, and to me, hydropower is important.
Yes.
In any country, but not to the extent of this, environmental destruction.
Yes.
So I don't think the people of Laos should make a be forced to choose between having a dam and also lift themselves out of poverty, or at the same time they have to face environmental destructions. And environmental destructions is not just for the environment that is being destroyed, but it's also the livelihood of the people. Some people, they rely a lot on the Mekong Sea, maybe for fishing and for other activities by the river.
Yeah, and their decision of building this dam doesn't just affect themselves, their country itself, because Mekong River is shared also with Vietnam and also Myanmar. So it is actually bordering their neighbors in this case. That they are trying to build the dam without actually consult the neighbors.
Yeah, and to be frank, I genuinely see that this is a bad policy of economic. It's a really bad policy to say that this will uplift the lives of the people, because to me, any issues related to poverty is a structural issue. So the government need better economic and policy reform rather than just say that, the dam will save us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So the last news of today, which is by the Cambodia Daily, Prime Minister Hun Sen offers up rosy New Year message. So ignoring the fatal shooting of protesters by state security forces, mass demonstrations after flawed national elections and crippling strikes, Prime Minister Hun Sen called the past 12 months peaceful and stable in the Khmer New Year message distributed this week. So he's quite delusional on what's
Yeah.
happening in his country.
It is like how Laos saying that the dam will save the whole country, but actually it is actually destructing their environments. So this is like another case of a delusional leader, I would say.
Yeah, and so he said that this is not our. This is being said by Han Sen. This is being said by the opposition. This is not our definition of peace. The past year was a year of total change, a year of people of Cambodia gave a clear sign to Han Sen that his time is up, and the people uses the ballot, which Han Sen returned with bullets.
Yeah.
So I think he probably missed out that comment by people. Probably his advisors are telling him rosy words. That's why he thinks everything is rosy. But in fact, there could be a revolution brewing under his nose.
Yes.
You never know.
There is actually.
Yeah. So this is our news for today. And we will continue again for Blast from the Grassroots with Sisters in Islam.